Words that create worlds, the revolutionary power of speaking life. Good morning, everyone. It's an absolute honor to stand before you today. I want to begin by acknowledging the extraordinary woman whose wisdom forms the foundation of this talk, Indiah Muslim. When I first encountered India's work, I was struck not just by her brilliance, but by her ability to transform entire communities through something as seemingly simple as intentional language. India is more than a visionary leader. She's a modern day alchemist who has discovered how to turn words into gold, not the kind that fills bank accounts, but the kind that fills souls with possibility. Her work has touched thousands of lives, particularly among Black women entrepreneurs and professionals who are reclaiming their power through the words they speak over themselves and others. What if I told you that the most powerful tool for transformation isn't something you need to purchase, download, or learn through years of specialized training? What if it's something you already possess and use every single day, often without realizing its true potential? I'm talking about your words. We've been taught that language merely describes our reality, that is simply a tool for communicating what already exists. But what if we've had it backward all along? What if language doesn't just describe our reality, but actively creates it? What if the words flowing from your lips at this very moment are not just reflecting your world, but literally constructing it? This isn't just philosophical speculation. The research is compelling. Neuroscientists have discovered that our brains physically change in response to the language we use. Positive affirmations don't just make us feel better momentarily, they create new neural pathways that fundamentally alter how we process information and respond to challenges. Our words become the architects of our neural networks, building highways of possibility or roadblocks of limitation. But let's move beyond the science for a moment. Let me share some remarkable real world examples that India Muslim highlighted in our conversation. Consider Tasha, a woman India worked with closely. After 15 years in corporate America, Tasha was unexpectedly laid off. In that moment of shock and uncertainty, she made a conscious decision about the language she would use to frame this experience. Instead of saying, I've been let go or I've been terminated, Tasha deliberately chose to say, I've been set free. Now, this wasn't denial or toxic positivity. This was a woman standing at a crossroads, deliberately choosing language that would open doors rather than close them. That single linguistic shift changed everything, not because it magically created a new job, but because it transformed how Tasha perceived her situation. It expanded what she could see as possible. Within 6 months, Tasha had launched an online coaching business supporting other women in career transitions. Today, she employs 5 people and has helped over 200 women reimagine their professional identities. When asked what made the difference, Tasha doesn't hesitate. It was the words I chose in my darkest moment. They became the foundation for everything that followed. This story isn't unique. Across the country, Black women are transforming adversity into opportunity through the power of intentional language. Despite facing increasing unemployment rates and systemic inequities in employment, many have launched businesses focused on empowerment. According to Wells Fargo's 2024 report, these enterprises grew nearly twice as fast as all US firms. What's particularly fascinating is how these entrepreneurs have leveraged intentional language as a business strategy. Many founders started after personal setbacks, a lost job or personal trauma, But instead of adopting a narrative of victimhood, they consciously chose language that empowered them. They created brands with names like I Love You to Life and messaging centered on affirmation and possibility. But this isn't just about individual success stories. India shared how collective language shifts are transforming entire communities. Take the Black Girl Magic conferences that have emerged across the country. These annual retreats bring together professionals focused on rest, restoration, networking, and most importantly, intentional affirmation practices. Attendees often arrive feeling burnt out from workplace microaggressions or entrepreneurship fatigue. Many describe themselves as dead tired or completely drained. The workshops at these conferences center around reframing these negative narratives into restorative affirmations. I'm dead tired becomes I am worthy of rest. I'm completely drained becomes I am replenishing my energy. Participants write vision statements using only empowering language and practice, speaking them aloud to one another. The outcomes are remarkable. Participants report improved confidence post event, with many launching new ventures inspired by connections made at these gatherings. But what's most striking is how quickly their outlook shifts, often before any material circumstances have changed. This suggests that the language shift precedes and enables the circumstantial shift, not the other way around. Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, this sounds nice, but what about when things are genuinely difficult? Isn't this just putting a positive spin on real problems? This is a fair question. And it brings me to India's second key insight. Intentional positivity is a practice, not perfection. Speaking life isn't about denying reality or pretending everything is wonderful when it isn't. It's about choosing language that empowers rather than diminishes you, especially when facing genuine challenges. Consider what happened when federal workforce cuts disproportionately impacted Black women in 2024. Advocacy groups emerged focusing not just on policy change, but also on narrative change within affected communities. Sudden layoffs left many without traditional career pathways and vulnerable to prevailing defeatist narratives like, we can't catch a break. These organizations launched peer led workshops teaching members how changing their language from despair, there's no hope, toward agency, we will build anew, could catalyze its action plans, including entrepreneurship training or civic engagement projects. The results? Members reported greater optimism about future prospects even before tangible economic gains appeared, a testament to mindset first approaches driving real world recovery efforts. Many leaders were themselves impacted by layoffs, but drew from faith traditions, emphasizing speaking life over one's situation. As Proverbs 18:21 reminds us, death and life are in the power of the tongue. This led to the formation of local incubators, supporting dozens of new small businesses founded by laid off workers who credit mindset shifts as foundational steps. There's now broader recognition across media and policy circles that addressing systemic inequities requires both structural reform and collective narrative healing rooted in empowered speech. What's particularly powerful about India Muslims' approach is that it acknowledges the reality of systemic barriers while refusing to be defined by them. It's not about ignoring problems. It's about approaching them with language that expands possibilities rather than constraining them. This brings me to India's third key insight. Collective mindset shifts can change communities. When individuals commit to speaking positivity, especially in spaces where negativity often prevails, it creates ripples that uplift families, workplaces, and entire communities. As Black professionals and entrepreneurs facing systemic barriers, harnessing this power is both an act of self preservation and community transformation. I want to be clear about something. This isn't just about individual success or personal development. The power of intentional language has profound implications for how we address collective challenges. Think about the language that dominates our discussions of social issues. How often do we frame conversations in terms of what's broken, what's impossible, what we're against? What might change if we consciously shifted toward language of possibility, agency, and vision? This isn't about ignoring problems or pretending everything is fine. It's about approaching challenges with language that expands our sense of what's possible rather than constraining it. India shared a powerful affirmation that captures this perfectly. I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. Now, let's talk about how to put this into practice. Based on India Muslims' work, here are three practical ways to harness the power of intentional language in your own life. First, become aware of your current language patterns. For 1 week, pay close attention to how you talk about yourself, your work, and your challenges. Notice patterns of self diminishment or defeat. Simply becoming conscious of these patterns is the first step toward changing them. Second, create intentional replacements. For each negative or limiting phrase you commonly use, develop an empowering alternative. Instead of I'm overwhelmed, try I'm prioritizing what matters most. Instead of I can't afford that, try I'm choosing to invest my resources elsewhere right now. These aren't just semantic games, they're shifts that open up different ways of thinking and acting. Third, practice communal affirmation. Find ways to speak life into others, especially those facing challenges. When someone shares a struggle, resist the urge to commiserate with negative language. Instead, affirm their strength and capacity while acknowledging their feelings. I see how hard this is, and I also see your incredible resilience. I stand before you today with a challenge, one that might seem simple, but has the power to revolutionize your life and ripple out to transform our collective future. Beginning tomorrow morning, when your feet first touch the floor, I challenge you to speak only what you want your day to become, not what you fear, not what you doubt, but what you desire to create. This isn't about denying reality, it's about claiming your power to shape it. It's about recognizing that in a world that constantly tells us who we are and what we can be, our words become acts of revolution. Every time you choose language that affirms rather than diminishes, that expands rather than constrains, that creates rather than destroys, you are engaging in an act of radical transformation. You are declaring that despite whatever circumstances you face, you refuse to surrender your power to define what those circumstances mean and what possibilities they contain. Remember, your words are not just descriptions of your world, they are blueprints for the world you are building. Choose them with the care of an architect designing not just a structure to inhabit today, but a legacy that will shelter generations to come. The revolution begins with your next sentence. What world will you speak into existence